in terms of the upgrades, carriers are going to be running huge promos here in the fall for sure. You're probably going to see the return of the $1,000 credit, for pro model devices.
Yeah, definitely promos, yada yada yada. Cool, that's great. But more like what really intrigues me about this is which network is going to be able to be prepared to drive all the traffic that it's going to take
Yeah, yeah,
to support all of these new features. We got a lot of we got some carriers out here who are wolf in sheep's clothes. They don't really got what it takes, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. That's really what I'm most excited about because all the carriers are going to be throwing money at the consumer. Here's $1,000. Here's this. Here's that. Here's free this. Here's free that. All right, cool. That's what's up. Everybody's gonna have a deal. But I'm just most interested to see which carrier is doing the work, which carriers are doing the work to be able to prepare for this influx of traffic. Because for a long time, video has been what's propelled, data traffic and whatnot. That's great, but I think AI is going to be what drives going forward. And the carrier that can support that, the best is the one that's going to stand the test of time. So we'll see what happens.
Yep,
That
100% right. Yeah.
yeah. Let's
one
talk. Let's
one
talk
correct.
networks. Go ahead,
Hold on,
V.
Tyler. One correction for the first phone, and Zirko is correct. There's one correction. Only the Pro series of the 15 series is actually eligible currently.
Because of hardware.
Exactly, because of the A17 chip. And B is absolutely right. Even on the keynote, I believe they said if you're in a different country trying to do these AI features, Apple Intelligence features, it may be delayed. They said that publicly. So, it basically determined, or not determined, sorry, it's basically saying that depending on your carrier, depending on where you are, depending on if you're on satellite or on a C-RAN or on millimeter wave or on C-band or on LTE, it will give you a drastically different experience. And depending on which core you are on, which core, you see what I'm saying right there? If you
Yeah.
are on NSA or you're on SA. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's talk the networks. All right, so you got AT&T. They run a LTE, an NSA, and a SA network. They also have the FirstNet core as well. You have Verizon, which runs an LTE network, and then their NSA 5G network, which is, I don't know when we're expecting the evolution of the SA piece. We've heard from their network leaders that there's no rush, so we'll just go with LTE and an NSA 5G piece. T-Mobile has led the way in the big three with respect to standalone 5G networking. They also operate LTE and NSA as well. Dish runs an interesting configuration. They have a standalone 5G network, and then they roam on the other carriers, and any of those could be a combination of NSA 5G, SA 5G, or LTE. The question becomes is who or which network will provide you with an exceptional experience while using your enabled Apple artificial intelligence devices. Who's going to be able to provide the best experience or a very good one? Are any of them gonna come up short? Is somebody gonna use these features and say, you know what, this network that I'm connected to doesn't really function well for these use cases? Maybe I should switch carriers. Is there a version of that, Moose, that happens where somebody switches carriers because their experience with their Apple intelligence just ain't cutting it?
Well, I think it's going to be a much broader question saying, do I have the connectivity or do I have the capacity required for my lifestyle? There's some people that they just want a specific carrier because it suits their lifestyle. Prime example, T-Mobile. They get T-Mobile Tuesdays, free stuff. They get Netflix, whatever. They have certain perks, right? But is in their area the macro network or the overall network suitable for them? Who knows? It might not be. It goes back to maybe the only reason why they're still at T-Mobile is because of the price point. But now, because the network is not sufficiently built out in that area, they might switch to Verizon or switch to AT&T, right? Because they realize that I need complete connectivity. I need connectivity everywhere, anywhere I go. I don't care about these perks because guess what? My biggest perk is this Apple Intelligence thing. And by the way, this will also change home internet subscriber potentially as well. So what do I mean by this? I mean that if somebody has T-Mobile home internet today, they might switch to fiber if they have availability soon, or if they already do. Because they also recognize that all of these AI features need the lowest latency possible and the fastest download and upload possible as well. So that's another piece, not just the wireless side, but it is something that we got to talk about. And also keep this in mind too. If we're talking about 80%, actually, hold on. We're talking about 70% market share in the United States is Apple, all in, okay? All smartphones, 70% plus. So for the average iPhone user, there is an argument, because I always am going to hear the devil's advocate argument. Oh, but there's not going to be, the boomers and the Gen X are not even going to use this Apple Intelligence, right? But as we all know, especially on this panel, Apple tries to make something very complicated very easy, right? That's why they make their phones and their software extremely basic, that even an infant can touch a screen and knows exactly what to do with the iPad. I've seen it live, right? So very interesting. To answer the question, I believe yes, but it's more of a holistic look. Like, oh, the price point is not there, the coverage is not there, the capacity is not there, the benefits do not outweigh the performance, right? So then they're going to look.
Moose, is this where the latency piece becomes important?
I believe so. And the reason why I say this is because even Apple on stage was like, depending on your region, I think that's how they said it, or depending on who you have for your carrier, will drastically it's going to be a totally different experience. Different countries even, right? Because who knows where the OpenAI servers are, right? And in the future, the Gemini servers, because remember, they even said it's not just going to be OpenAI, ChatGPT, it's going to be other large language models going to be incorporated into Siri. Siri is going to be this aggregator of multiple different languages.